Hello and welcome to Nothing But the Truth. As the election enters its key final phase, how is the Congress party faring? That's the key issue I shall discuss today with the Power Minister, Jyotiraditya Scindia. Mr. Scindia, let's start with Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi. Over the last 2 weeks, as she's begun to speak out, Priyanka Gandhi has begun to dominate the front pages. She completely takes over the television screens at night. In contrast, Rahul Gandhi seems to have been banished to the inside pages of newspapers or even the speed news section of TV. Has Priyanka Gandhi stolen her brother's limelight?
I certainly don't think so. I think they are a team that complements each other. I think they work together in tandem. And I think they both have their very distinct USPs, which is manifested in their speeches and in the way that they have worked over the last couple of years.
Let me tell you why I asked this question. There are two questions that are being asked in television studios almost every single night. First, is Priyanka Gandhi a more effective campaigner? Secondly, has Congress made a mistake by not giving her a bigger, deeper role? Regardless of what the answers are, can you accept the mere fact that these questions are being asked is undermining Rahul Gandhi's status and stature?
No, I don't necessarily think that's the case at all, Karan, because if there are distinct advantages to your capability and there are certain distinct advantages to my capability, it's the complementarity of both those capabilities that will ultimately benefit no one else but the Congress party. And that's what is enshrined in their distinct capabilities between the two.
Except that people think her capabilities and her skills are considerably greater than Rahul's and in fact are overshadowing her. People compare her to her grandmother Indira. Number two, when she walked without slippers on the hot sand, people said this showed her grit and determination. When she gives a speech or she speaks, her eyes sparkle, and all of that attracts people. In contrast, Rahul leaves them indifferent, sometimes even cold.
She certainly has a tremendous capability. She has tremendous grit and determination, and so does Rahul Gandhi. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, they both complement each other in their roles. She has a great repertoire and ability to be able to answer issues on the spot. And at the same time, Rahul Gandhi ji has his own capabilities as well in terms of looking at far-reaching legislation, far-reaching vision for India, and I think that both those roles complement each other as they go forward.
Let me give you a telling example. Rahul Gandhi's Times Now interview was an unmitigated disaster. The interviews he's done since then have actually sunk without trace. In contrast, Priyanka Gandhi's daily soundbites, which last for just a minute or two, set the agenda for the day. They keep the BJP on the defensive. She has that capacity to strike in a wound he simply doesn't. In her campaign, she scores points. He gets points scored against him.
I don't agree with that. I think his capability of reaching out to youth, to be able to reach out to the masses of India, is unparalleled. But she also has tremendous capabilities, and as I mentioned before, it's a complementarity role between both of them that will ultimately benefit the Congress party.
You know better than me, because you're a superb politician and a superb communicator, that actually politics is the art of communication. It's the capacity to convince people that you have the answers. Priyanka Gandhi is a natural-born communicator. Rahul struggles and still can't find the right words. That's why she has imprinted herself on the country. As far as Rahul's concerned, he's a blur in people's mind.
I don't agree with that estimation of yours, Karan. I think his capability and the hard work that he has shown over the last 8 to 10 years has really borne fruit in many ways in terms of immense amount of legislation that the party has passed, and I do not think
but
that only
in Parliament has been minimal. He's barely been present.
But I don't think that only communication itself alone. Certainly, she is a great communicator. But I think, as I said earlier, I think both brother and sister very much complement each other in their role for the Congress party.
Let me put it like this. If politics was a silent movie, Rahul Gandhi would be a superb actor because it wouldn't matter that he doesn't speak. But it's not. In this age of 24-hour communication, of television being something that is beaming into people's homes right through the day and the night, Priyanka Gandhi carries your message. People sit up and listen. She also keeps the opposition on the defensive. Rahul has no impact even on your supporters and admirers. They are perhaps the most disillusioned with him.
I think it's the best combination between the two, where you have certain capabilities in Priyanka in terms of all the attributes that you mentioned, communication, riposte, all of that, and then a very strong foundation in Rahul Gandhi in terms of capability to lead the country forward with a vision for the country. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a complementarity. Well, I don't think, again, Karan, I don't think it's an either-or question. It's an and. You've got to have both, and between the two, we have both. Well, and I think that is the treasure of the Congress Party.
I accept it's and, but 90% of the skills are with her, 10 with him.
I don't agree with that estimation. I think you also have to have a very large volume of hard work based on which you can talk on those issues, and I think both of them together complement the party.
Let me put it like this. Is it not a problem for the Congress Party that you see Rahul Gandhi as Sonia Gandhi's natural successor? You see him as the next president of the party. Yet on the other hand, the press and large sections of public opinion think Priyanka would be better at the job. The only reason she's not pushing herself, they say, is because she doesn't want to trample on her brother's ambitions. That she's a good sister, she's been brought up to believe that Rahul will be president, not her, but she's got the skills and he hasn't.
Well, I certainly think that Rahul Gandhi ji has all the necessary skills not only to lead the Congress Party but to lead this country. And as I said earlier, I think it's a complementarity role that they both play for the Congress Party.
My last question on this. People say that if Congress were to lose the elections as the polls are predicting, worst yet, if Congress were to end up with its worst ever electoral performance, which also the polls are predicting, there will be a clamour from your rank and file that Priyanka should play a bigger, deeper, more extended role. As someone who's probably one of the leaders of the next generation, how should your party respond to that demand?
Well, I certainly think that irrespective of what the results are, I certainly think that the Congress Party will emerge stronger from this election. And I think let's debate that when the results are out.
But do you believe there is a need, on the track record of what we've seen for the last 10 years and on the track record of this campaign in particular, that in fact the duality or complementarity must be increased, that Priyanka must play a bigger role, possibly taking on some of the tasks that up to now have been left to her brother, that the future of Congress depends on Priyanka coming forward, not replacing her brother, but side by side with him?
But I think that's a decision that the two of them will have to take. I don't think you commenting on it or I commenting on it is important. I think that's the decision that they will have to take.
Is it going to be a problematic decision for them to take? Because at the end of the day, politicians are rivals apart from being siblings.
Well, I can't comment on that. I think it's important in life not to delve into private domains of people, and I certainly respect that.
I understand that. But can I make one last point? Is this one of the issues, challenges perhaps, that Congress will have to grapple with post-May the 16th?
Well, I think let the results come out, and then, as you know, I'm very straightforward and honest, and then we can debate on that post the results come out.
All right. Let's now come to something that Rahul Gandhi has focused upon in perhaps every single major speech he's made. There probably isn't a single speech where he doesn't bring up this issue, and I'm talking about his attack on Gautam Adani. He says repeatedly that Adani has received thousands of acres. Sometimes he's specific and says 45,000 exactly from Modi at 1 rupee per square meter, which he says is the price of a toffee. Last week, Mr. Adani revealed the amount of land he's received, who the chief ministers were, and what the prices were. And it turns out that Rahul Gandhi is embarrassingly wrong. And yet, Rahul Gandhi keeps making these allegations. Hasn't the time come for Rahul Gandhi to stop making false accusations?
Well, I don't think that the accusation is false at all. I think it's enshrined in truth. The fact is that thousands and thousands of acres, I'm not clear what the exact figure is.
Sometimes he says 45,000.
But whatever that figure may be, but thousands of acres have been given to that particular gentleman and that particular group, the Adani group. And I don't think, I think it's enshrined in truth, and the fact is that it's been given away at a throwaway price.
You say it's enshrined in truth. Let's actually come to the critical facts. Adani has been buying land in Mundra since 1993. The first land was sold to him by a Congress Chief Minister, Chimanbhai Patel, at 10 paisa per square meter. He then acquired land from Keshubhai Patel at 1 rupee per square meter, from Vaghela at 1 rupee 50 paisa per square meter. The land he acquired from Mr. Modi was at 15 rupees per square meter, 15 times more than what Rahul Gandhi is claiming. Rahul Gandhi is out by 15 times.
Well, I am not very clear on exactly what those facts are, but I am very clear on this one fact, Karan. The fact is that they've been given tens and thousands of acres at a very throwaway price. And that land surely could be have been put to much better use by that government. Why was it given only to one group? Why was it not given or auctioned? I think transparency and accountability is extremely important, and if it really were the case that there were multiple bidders for that, then why wasn't that land auctioned? And
your critical point is that land was given away at a throwaway price. But the first person to give away land at what you call a throwaway price was your Chief Minister, Chimanbhai Patel, in 92-93 at 10 paisa per square meter. That Rahul Gandhi is either not aware of or he's ignoring. If 1 rupee per square meter, which is not the price Mr. Modi sold at all, but if 1 rupee per square meter
you're forgetting a very
derided, 10 paisa per square meter is even worse.
You're forgetting an extremely important factor in this equation. It's not only the price, it's also the quantity of land. Please understand that. If you in fact are giving away, let's say, 100 acres to put up for example, a spice park, as opposed to giving away 20,000 acres or 30,000 or 45,000 acres at this point for no particular reason whatsoever, then there's a big discrepancy between them.
It's very interesting that you should say it's not just the price, it's the quantity of land, because that's the second point I was going to make. What again Rahul Gandhi has either not noticed, or he's ignored, or he's not even aware of, is that Adani has only acquired 1/3 of his 15,900 acre holding under Mr. Modi. The other 10,000 came earlier, much of it again from Chimanbhai Patel, who gave it at 10 paisa per square meter. So both on price and on terms of how much land came from Mr. Modi, Rahul Gandhi is completely wrong. This is why I say these are false accusations that he's making.
I don't agree with that. I think these accusations are real. The fact is that if you give away land without the purpose being defined, I think that itself is also an issue.
You know, the bigger point I'm making is this. Rahul Gandhi has repeated this accusation about Adani so often that it's embarrassing that he's got his facts wrong. It shows not only that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but worse, it shows he's irresponsible in the accusations he's making.
No, I don't think that is the truth at all. He's very responsible in the accusations that he makes, and the fact is that when you give away land without a purpose, that itself raises multiple questions in people's minds.
Let me prove the irresponsibility of the accusations Rahul Gandhi is giving, not by talking about Adani, but by bringing up another accusation. He's also said that the Tatas have acquired 10,000 crore of loans at 0.1%. Now, the Gujarat High Court, none other than the Gujarat High Court, has in fact made it clear this is not a straightforward loan. It's tied to the amount of VAT and sales tax the Tatas pay. In fact, if the Tatas pay no VAT and no sales tax, there will be no loan. So again, Rahul Gandhi is wrong.
I'm not aware of him raising this issue, and it's something that I'm not aware of. I can't respond to.
Let me put one last point and then I'll move on. Not only is Rahul Gandhi wrong in claiming it's a loan, not only is he wrong in saying it's 10,000 because it was actually capped at 7,000, but the most embarrassing thing is that this sort of incentive to producers and industrialists were given by your government in Haryana and Andhra Pradesh. If they are correct in giving it, why is Gujarat wrong? That is something Rahul Gandhi is either unaware of or he hasn't addressed. And when it's brought up, it's embarrassing that the prime ministerial candidate, or whatever you call him, of the Congress party, makes these horrible lapses.
I don't agree with that, Karan. You have to see the reason why this allegation was made. When you favor one particular group in a particular state, you also give away land without its true purpose being defined, then these questions do crop up. I'm surely, with regard to the other examples that you've made, there's a very clear end use that has been defined in those areas. In this case, the end use has not been defined. So I don't agree with that allegation of yours.
The questions that Indian industrialists ask themselves, and increasingly they ask it publicly as well, is Rahul Gandhi trying to annoy Indian industrialists? Or does he not realize what he's actually saying? Because he's hit out at the Adanis, he's hit out at the Tatas. He's actually hitting out at people who are icons of this country, Ratan Tata in particular, and he's got his facts wrong. There's no greater supporter of your government than Ratan Tata. He served on so many of the Prime Minister's committees, and yet Rahul Gandhi is targeting him and accusing him of crony capitalism.
I don't think that's the case. I'm not aware of the allegation that you're referring to, as I mentioned, but I do think that it's important to have economic growth. That economic growth has to create employment, has to create jobs, but at the same time, there is an issue of crony capitalism, which is restricted to a couple of people, and I think that needs to be addressed as well.
The balance in what you say is so different to the accusation and the tone that lies behind Rahul Gandhi. You say it sensibly, he says it in a way that offends industrialists. Again, this is why people say, is he cut out for the job he wants?
I don't think that's necessarily the case, because like you get feedback, so do I. And I think the very direct allegation towards one group doesn't necessarily mean that you cast that shadow over the whole group of industrialists across this length and breadth of this country.
All right, let's take a break at that point. When I come back, I want to turn to the incredible turnout we've seen and ask, is this good news for Congress Party or is the bell tolling? We'll be back in a moment's time. Don't go away. Welcome back to Nothing But the Truth with the Prime Minister, Jyotiraditya Scindia. Mr. Scindia, let's come to the incredible turnout. 7 phases, 438 constituencies, and the turnout is 66.2%, almost 9% more than 2009. Yes. Or to put it differently, of the 28 states and union territories where polling is completed, 26 have seen a higher turnout than 2009, 14 have seen the highest ever. Is this a Modi wave?
Well, before we get into whether it's a Modi wave, a Congress wave, whether BJP is down, whether Congress is
Congress wave it can't be.
Either way, before we get into any of that, I think the biggest credit for this must go to the Election Commission. I think many times we undermine our institutions in India. The Election Commission, and I know you're trying to interrupt me, but let me have my say. The Election Commission in India has done a wonderful job over the last 2 years in terms of increasing voter awareness.
Absolutely.
And holding electoral turnout.
No one would deny it.
Yes,
I'm with
absolutely.
you on that.
Cleaning up the electoral rolls.
But have they, in cleaning up rolls, in ensuring this incredible turnout, also facilitated, not deliberately, but have they facilitated what I'm suggesting could be a Modi wave? This incredible turnout. Is it, in fact, the bell tolling for Congress?
I certainly don't think that there's a Modi wave across the length and breadth of this country.
Where is the Modi wave then?
I don't think there is a Modi wave.
At all?
I do not think. I honestly don't think that there's a Modi wave at all. I do think that there has been an increased voter turnout because of increased awareness across the length and breadth of this country, which is a very good thing for democracy. But I think we should wait for the results before we term anything as a Modi wave or a BJP wave or otherwise.
Let's take Gujarat, for example. There's been an overall increase in turnout in the state of 14.1%, which on its own is pretty phenomenal. In Vadodara, where Mr. Modi is standing, the turnout has increased by 23%. Are you sure he's not going to end up winning 26 out of 26, which is the mission he set himself?
Well, he's been wanting to win 26 out of 26 for the last 3 Lok Sabha elections. And the Congress has won between 45 to 50% of the seats in Gujarat. It's too early to tell whether the Congress will win more seats in Gujarat or the BJP, but let's wait till the 16th of May.
You don't believe that a turnout increase of 14% or 23 in his own constituency are people voting to get him out?
I'm not talking about his constituency, but certainly as far as Gujarat is concerned, it's the same phenomena that's being experienced across the country.
Let's come to the 2 critical cities of India, Delhi and Mumbai.
Yes.
The increased voters in Delhi is 12.9%. The increased voter turnout in Mumbai is 11.25%.
Yes.
In 2009, UPA won all 13 seats. This time, you worried that you could end up losing most, if not all of those 13.
Well, I certainly don't think that scenario will turn out. I think the Congress will still maintain in both Delhi and Mumbai. How many seats they'll maintain?
But surely it will come down sharply. We won't get 13 out of 13.
I don't think that we can make that comment at this point of time. Numbers may come down, but I don't know what the exact numbers may be.
I'd say instead of may, you should say will come down. Might even come down decisively.
Let's wait till the 16th of May. It's not too far away.
Let's take the situation in Raebareli, which is actually the opposite of what I'm talking about. UP, as a whole, has seen an increase in voter turnout of 10%. In Raebareli, the increase is only 4.3%. Is that, as most people suspect, a lack of enthusiasm for Sonia Gandhi?
Well, again, I think that as far as Raebareli is concerned, the verdict is pretty much out.
What's the verdict?
And I think that if the same margin is not maintained, it'll be a much higher margin than last time.
You sure it's not going to be
I'm very clear
a
on that.
smaller win, a smaller win?
I am very clear on that. But again, as I said, let's wait till the 16th of May.
Is the lady safe? I'm asking you bluntly.
Mr. Gandhi, I don't think there's even a specter of a doubt there, even a 0.001%, and I think the winning margin will be even higher than last time.
We're talking about what this incredible turnout means. You keep saying that it could in fact mean another UPA 3. I want to ask you one simple, blunt question. Give me one single reason, just one, that explains how a high turnout could end up being good news for Congress.
Well, certainly so. Let me give you the corollary. There was a higher turnout in the assembly elections, and that was good news for the incumbent governments in many states. So don't necessarily correlate a higher turnout with a negative association or correlation. I think there's too much of psephology that's going in, and the voter is much more intelligent than any psephology that goes on. So I think we should wait till the 16th of May.
My last set of questions. In an interview that he gave me on Wednesday, Finance Minister Chidambaram said that perhaps the key mistake that UP had made was to take its foot off the accelerator of growth, to convince itself that the country would accept lower levels of growth after getting used to 8 and 9%. Would you, as someone who served in UPA 3, accept that taking your foot off the accelerator was the key mistake and that it's going to cost you?
I don't think it was as simple as that we took our foot off the accelerator. I think the situation was much more complex, and I don't want to get into that because you and I have debated on this in the last 4 or 5 years multiple times. But I certainly do think that if we want a strong India, that strong India has to be set on two agendas. One, extremely strong economic growth combined with reforms with a human face. And I think it's the combination of both of those factors that will really result in a resilient, entrepreneurial, young India coming forward.
If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, are you saying that post-May 16, Congress has to change the balance in its emphasis or in its policies between redistribution and growth, and you need to stress growth a lot more than you have been doing?
I don't think it's an either or an unequal divide between the two. I think it's an and, because it's only when you have...
But does the balance need to change?
But it's only when you have higher rates of growth that you're able to even look at a much more higher social agenda in terms of putting forward a number of these schemes. So I think they're complementary to each other.
I think you've answered my question when you use that critical phrase. It's only when you have higher rates of growth that you can put together a social agenda. The higher rate of growth is the priority.
Well, again, as I said, that it depends on the dependent and the independent variable. And certainly, a more effective social agenda will be driven by a higher rate of growth.
And without the higher rate of growth, you won't have that social agenda.
It becomes difficult. It becomes difficult because at the end of the day, your balance sheet has to balance, and your income statement has to balance.
So the first stage is growth.
The independent variable is economic growth. There's no doubt about that.
Mr. Scindia, pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.